Hey everyone, and welcome to episode number 12 of Not Another Demo. As you know, hopefully having watched 11 of these already, or if you haven't, go back and watch the other 11. Not Another Demo is our take on changing the narrative of conversations a little bit, getting away from marketing jargon and PowerPoint slides to having real conversations with a vendor or about a certain technology. The technology of choice that we're going to be talking about today is SIEM technology. And as that is an acronym, that stands for Security Information and Event Management. We're just going to cut that off right there because there's a lot of words to say. And sometimes we do understand why there are acronyms. From here to the rest of the episode, we're just going to say SIEM. We are joined today by Alex Page, Sam Adams, and Andrew O'Brien from Rapid7. And Sam, with that, I will let you guys introduce yourselves a little bit. And then maybe you could start with the first question that we always like to ask on these is, you know, again, at a time where people's calendars are full and you're getting more sales calls than ever, and there's more vendors and there's more products and there's more of everything coming at us all the time, why would someone want to spend an hour on a phone call talking with Rapid7 about your SIEM technology?
Sure, great. And thanks for having us on. My name is Sam Adams, as you mentioned. I run our engineering team for our Insight IDR product line, which, as you point out, is a SIEM. And I'm joined by Alex Page, who runs, one of our sales teams. I think to answer your intro question, I think Rapid7 brings a unique perspective to the SIEM industry for a bunch of reasons. But the three that kind of come to mind real quick are, we also own the Metasploit project, and that brings a real attacker mentality
I
to
didn't know that.
To Rapid7.
That's impressive.
and so, as developing and as a developer and cultivator of that project, we really spend a lot of time thinking about how people attack networks and what works and what doesn't work. Being a pure SaaS SIEM, we've focused 100% on how quickly you can get a SIEM deployed and get it out there and working. And I think the last piece is, and I think this does make us pretty unique in the industry, is we run an MDR service on top of our SIEM technology, which means we include a free endpoint agent in our SIEM. And this service means about a third of our customers are managed. And so we have a whole bunch of analysts in-house who are using our technology just like our customers would to run it. And so we get a really tight feedback loop about what's working and what's not working. And we've really we really changed the way we build our technology to kind of incorporate their feedback first. So you're always getting that sort of security analyst perspective as we roll out features.
Nice. So, Anthony, I'm going to just pass over to you real quick because I know you did have some questions that you wanted to ask, and maybe we can take a step back from that even, and let's talk just about SIEM in general and its place in the world.
Yeah.
He did use one acronym though, so I was waiting for him to stop.
I love that. Yeah.
EDR. What's EDR?
Well, MDR. I think I used MDR. Yeah.
Oh, you said MDR. Okay.
Yeah, MDR is Managed Detection and Response. Okay. Sorry, I broke the rule right away. So quick.
which is predominantly, MDR, Managed Detection and Response, is a new breed of MSSP. It's been around since 2015 for us. That seems to be about the time it came in vogue.
And what's MSSP? See, you guys aren't used to this format.
Yeah. And so an MSSP is a managed security service provider, as opposed to an MSP, which is just a managed service provider, which might be more IT oriented. And with the lack of headcount in the industry that everybody talks about all the time and is very real, managed offerings are becoming more and more prevalent and necessary. Unfortunately, most of them are hot garbage, but maybe that's not for this podcast. Oh, that's for this podcast.
That's for the really bad security.
That might be a really bad security episode. Yeah.
Well, and I do think, as it relates to this whole conversation, I'd be remiss if I didn't say at this time that most of the managed detection and response vendors do manage an EDR, endpoint detection response technology. It's rarely their own, often never their own. And with our solution, you know, we're here to talk about SIEM. We're a leader in the SIEM space. We also have EDR within this and other components. So because, as Sam pointed out, true north for us has been detecting evil using Metasploit and the attacker mindset, using our SOC with our managed detection response, our expert blue teamers, and you kind of put them both inside SIEM's product org and help them drive roadmap and delivery. Yeah, it's not surprising that a SIEM also has endpoint detection response. It also has network traffic analysis, right? Typically, those would not exist in a SIEM. So we'll talk more about that. I thought it was a logical point to kind of expand on it, though.
And here's the thing with the acronyms. We understand why everyone uses them. I think what happens sometimes in conversations is it becomes just like acronym soup. Yep. And that's why we kind of take that tact. It's just sometimes you know, people maybe they haven't heard what those are. So, but here's the thing. Much like we did with SIEM, if you explain it once, we won't ask you a second time. So you can say MDR from now on out.
Sounds good.
So. All right, Anthony, hammer away.
So to take a step back, I do want to talk about the business case and where SIEM fits into a security stack. And so I'm going to take the approach of the change my mind mentality. So if we historically look at SIEM spending, excuse me, and SIEM value, we're asking organizations, if I pick on a vendor who's not Rapid7, maybe one that rhymes with Blunk, and I ask my business for $1 million in licensing, because, you know, SIEMs typically are licensed on a messages per second, you know, licensing model. It becomes a case where the value proposition of a SIEM is incredibly diminished, because I'm spending more on you than I am getting value out of my SIEM. I have an EDR. I've got maybe an NDR, network detection and response. I've got these other tools that are more first line, who are stopping these initial threats. So when I add a SIEM, which in many use cases is there for either additional context, like we know a SIEM is good for, or also as a compliance need, because you need to keep logs for so many years. And let's just layer on a, you know, an application layer of detection and correlation, things of that nature. So that's a really long-winded way to say, how are you guys actually providing real value that I can translate into what the business cares about, and that's dollars?
Well, I can help with that use case. So let's give you a specific use case. So I do beat up Splunk from time to time, you know, same way I beat up Proofpoint a little bit. You know, they're at one time they're considered the Cadillac, right? But there was a situation a couple of years ago where a CISO had to make a decision, right? So going back to what Anthony's talking about, he's got a decision, he's got a limited budget, and he's got to pick between what he does with that data that when it's coming back out is now going to cost him I'm paraphrasing, $50,000, and it's like half his budget. So he's now stuck with a choice between, do I pay the 50 grand? Now I have to take away from X, Y, and Z tools, but I have that money. Do I roll the dice, right, and just walk away, cross my fingers that I'm not going to have any incident, you know, a need for that data in the next year or two? How do you help answer Anthony's question with that? And sorry, we normally try and give you softball questions first. I want to go on the record that Anthony went for the bat first, not the softball question. So I apologize.
I'm going to add some business context around the business nature of this question. What I'll say is, always so pumped to have Sam involved in these conversations. Since 2012, when this idea was a whiteboard, it was Sam and a key group of people, but he was accountable to the success of this thing. And there were some very key things, beliefs that he shared with our CEO around how we do this and how we do not do this. So I'll let him talk about that. He'll talk about that a lot. But I just want to double down on your point. I think just yesterday, and I want to say Splunk's very powerful. It's very good at what it does.
It is. I said the Cadillac. I mean,
yeah.
I was bashing a little bit. But
also, I'd like to throw
product.
in very good supporters of the CSA, and so all said and love.
Yeah, right. And I think we can all agree to get Splunk to, or no, maybe we can't. In my opinion, and based on what I've observed over the past 7 years, talking to over 600 companies a year, there's a very specific type of security team or just company that can get value out of Splunk. And you have to be,
That's
and you
fair.
really have to look yourself in the mirror and say, am I this type of company? Do I have development skill set in my security team? That's
solid.
typically a luxury. And so what we're seeing, and they have a very specific pricing model that a lot of people, I'm sure they would agree, they got a lot of pushback on, but they had their earnings call yesterday and it was tough. And what their CFO called out is they're seeing a big pullback in contract commitments. What he doesn't say is based on how they price, but what you call out, Aaron, is I think a concern of ours that we want to avoid, which is I would love to put this data into this technology because it's going to give me immense security value, but I can't afford it. That's a tough decision. Last thing I'll say, I want to get Sam's perspective on this, is one of the big things that you need to remember about us that makes us different, maybe it makes us better, maybe it doesn't, but it does make us different in our approach, is we work backwards from a traditional SIEM. Traditional SIEM, Splunk and others, is like, give us all the data. Now, what do you want to build? And you work towards use cases. To Anthony's point, up front, you might just be pulling in your other security tools and their alerts. The SIEM itself is not giving you incremental value. It's not doing additional things to detect threats. It's really just pulling in other data sets, and then you can search to investigate. A SIEM should, in our opinion, actually take the data and be additive with more security, more threat detection. I'll be very explicit, more alerts. And more alerts aren't necessarily good.
That's not what we want to hear, though.
Yeah, no, but
because yeah, and to color this, to color my question a little more, is I probably only get a dozen actionable alerts out of a SIEM a year. And I work for a company that has over 8,000 employees. So we have a lot of logs and a lot of things. And so you need to be able to prove that those actionable alerts are of real value. That's going to cost me 6 figures, because you can't tell me that there's a SIEM out there
that's
going to cost less than 6 figures.
I never thought about it as a per alert cost, right? So, you know,
That's
let's say he spends 60,000 and he's getting 10 alerts. How do you justify that one alert is worth $6,000? Because to your point, Alex, it could be, right? Like that could be the one alert. I'm going to pick on my friends at Target, and I know a lot of them, and they are awesome guys. That it could be that one alert that says, hey, your payment or your HVAC vendor, hello, hits home for us, is doing something flaky. So you could argue, I'm going to put my Alex hat on for a minute. You could argue, yep, that is worth $6,000 because that alert just saved you, $100,000.
Well, and you could actually flip it on its head. And I want Sam to start to jump in on both these things, both how we view data versus cost and the choices we made. And then we're starting to go down a very interesting path, which is, how do we not overwhelm people with alerts, but we still give them more than their other tools that they're pumping into SIEM? Because my observation is it's mostly just my endpoint. Some other tools are going into the SIEM, and any alert I'm actioning is not that SIEM created. It's just a central point for it, which is not valuable.
Right.
But what you could also measure is how many alerts am I not investigating, that are false positive? How many fewer ghosts am I chasing because my technology pares down alerts? So we'll talk.
All right. Well,
we'll talk about that.
we'll all shut up and let Mr. Adams.
we gotta
I was
let
gonna say,
we'll
that's
do
the
it.
longest-winded
put
question
myself
we've
on
ever
mute.
asked.
Yeah, so the
12-minute
point,
question.
so the point is, and this will go to Sam, is I started to say before we got into the Splunk thing, they go like this. Every SIEM goes like this. Data, what do you want to build? Because Sam and his org have Metasploit, we see real life attacks. We are real life attackers. From the jump, we worked backwards. What do actual attackers do? How do we see that and alert on it? What data do we need? How do we need to look at that data? Does it even produce a log? And work backwards to the data we need. So that's why when we say, we're going to say many times today, we have over 900 pre-built detections. That was built, those have been built a long time by the right people who actually either carry out attacks or respond to attacks.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that's, since we're on the topic of alerts, I mean, there was a very broad question, so I've got a bunch of answers for you, Anthony. But
Yeah.
you know, one of the things we do is I mentioned those 300 managed customers that we have, and that we're a cloud-based SIEM. We are able to, we ship for our customers hundreds of pre-built alerts. The really great thing about that is we tune them across all our customers before we unleash them on any of our customers. So, when you say you get only 12 actionable alerts, I think what we would say is that we want to give you less alerts, but we want them, we want them to be really high value. And, obviously our hope is that, that a lot of our customers have no alerts that are actionable, because that means they're not being attacked. We know that's not the real situation. But, what we've seen a lot in the customers that we, when we onboard them is they say they're drowning in alerts. Well, a lot of times it's because they've got a rule in their SIEM that says, if IDS alert, severity equals high, create alert in my SIEM.
Right.
We would tell you, that's a really bad idea. And in fact, we even have, we ship a pre-tuned Suricata engine with our SIEM as well. And it comes with a bunch of alerts that our analysts think are really valuable. Mm-hmm. But we also can see, because we're in the cloud, we can see how often they're firing across all of our customers. And so we can say, oh, we think this is a good alert. And then we actually put it in the little test chamber. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that hit 10,000 times across all our customers in a week. Like that's terrible. Like we're not gonna, we need to go back to the drawing board on that one. And it won't really come out of that test chamber until we feel like it's at the right value proposition to number of alerts and value. I think the only other thing I'll say, and then I'll turn it back over a little bit, is the data-driven pricing that we see in the market today creates this, and this goes back to you, Aaron, this problem where you're right, customers have to decide, which of these events do I want to send in? And, what we decided is we're going to price by asset. We're going to price by the number of assets we see in your environment. And we're trying to remove that sort of, do I send this data? Do I not send this data? I think the other thing is that we actually spend a lot of time with our customers and in our normalization rules and ingestion rules, pruning data out, right? So, because we feel like we don't need that data to detect it. It doesn't have security value. Whereas, a lot of the other vendors in this market, they want you to send all that data. They want you to, they don't care whether it's useful or useless. They're pricing on data.
Because that's where they're making money.
That's where they're making money. And we're not incented to do that, right? So our pricing model doesn't incent us to have you send us more useless data. Our pricing model is all about you sending us the data we need and you need to do your job successfully. And so
it's actually the opposite, because if you guys are holding more data on your cloud, then that's you guys spending more money.
Yeah, we're incented the exact opposite, which is to get you, the data you need. And obviously, because we're SaaS and we're ARR, we want retention as well. And we want happy customers, as all companies do, hopefully.
Then you guys do this open question for both of you. 4 years ago, been forever. One of the earliest tasks that our new CISO at the time, Lenny Levy, had us work on was a cost benefit analysis around doing our own data lake, right? Yep. And having, a SIEM. I mean, we have a SIEM, but I mean, it was a little bit of product that was getting long in the tooth. because there was the business value of, hey, if we have a data lake and we can feed the SIM, we can feed security information, there's also infrastructure information that's valuable. There's also business information that's valuable. One of the things that I kind of did for my days as a business analyst was an exercise with the supervisor of the SOC at the time, and said, okay, understanding that it's, you're going to have to take that iterative approach. What's the maximum amount of data points that you want to collect, right? Because I had to start from somewhere. Like, I was in security maybe for literally only 3 months when that project was tossed into my lap, but it worked out well because as a former business analyst, I took a holistic approach. And I remember at one time, I think we were up to 80 or 65 key data elements that he wanted to collect. And then we had to kind of narrow it down to like that MVP. Do you guys have that kind of concept when you're working with a company? So, you come in, you work with a major healthcare organization, right? You're going to take over their SIM. Do you have that exercise? Because it feels like that thought process can get you relevant information quicker. Or how do you guys start from scratch?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it is one of those things that we think a lot about. What I would say is that we have what we call our core data sets, which power our behavior engine. And so we try to encourage customers to get that up and running as quickly as possible, because to your point, we think that there's like a bunch of high value data points that we can turn into behaviors. And those behaviors, unlike rules, are less noisy. And so, we try to get the behavior engine powered up first, but then, to your point, like, we kind of do turn it over to the customer to choose what's next. It becomes a little bit of a choose your own adventure. Do I install the agent next? Do I install the network sensor yet? Do I send the firewall data in? And we've talked a lot, quite honestly, about how we can guide customers more along that path. But, I'll be honest, we haven't really figured it out. I don't know if, I don't know if
that's okay. I'd rather have honesty than the marketing fluff, because there have been so many times in my security journey the last almost 5 years is where we've end up, in essence, beta testing functionality. And that's where I get frustrated. That's where I give more respect to the vendors that are like, hey, we do this. We don't do this. Yeah. Right. Because I think it helps as an analyst, it helps set me up for success. And on the marketing side, it helps your company set up for success. Right. Because I think, I think one of the things that, and Splunk may be getting that pushback now, right, is, I mean, their UI, I'm gonna give credit where credit's due. Their UI is awesome. It's simple. They understand the Google model, their UX designer, whoever they are, great. Where they get beat up, like you said, is those hidden costs and those hidden fees. And then what's going to happen when I need to pull that data out? So I think, especially in the SIM space, is as vendors don't understand, let's look at this as a longer term partnership. So many times, and I know Matt and I talk about this from time to time, you see that big medium-sized company and you see, the salesperson sees that and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get X this, and I'm going to make end this, this much money by the end of the year. But they're almost doing a disservice to their company, like a Rapid7, where let's look at this for a longer partnership thing. And that's why you're seeing CISOs doing what they're doing, because I've been fortunate enough. I've worked for Lenny, who is an awesome CISO. He thought things this way. And I got my current CISO, Scott, that basically looks at it like, one of the things he challenges us is, okay, what's the cost of that year in 2 or 3? Because you have those salesperson saying, I'm going to give you 50% off the discount for 12 months, and that doesn't even matter what data you ingest.
Right.
PO just has to be in by the end of the quarter.
That's right. Oh man, the life we choose.
Yeah.
30 seconds on that, if I could.
Sure.
And it's back to Matt's point at the beginning. You're getting slammed by emails, phone calls. You go to a trade show and it's a circus. That is an especially salient point to me and my teams who are trying to educate customers, And it's especially challenging for Rapid7. People are like, oh, you're the vulnerability management people. Do you Tenable and Qualys? It's like, well, yeah, we also have 2,000 customers using our next gen SIEM. And, you know, and the point here, to your point, Aaron, is we realized about 36 months ago, our best marketing is happy customers. Because that's where you all go. You call each other, hey, what do you use for this? How's it been? Hey,
especially in West Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely
Hey,
here.
born in Grand Rapids, by the way, Butterworth Hospital. I guess it's no longer here, but
Nice.
yeah, go State, big win over Duke. But the point is the point is we're actually measured on things that you wouldn't expect salespeople to, and it's selfish. It's so we have good marketing in these little forums. And so I think that's something that I wish more sales teams would adopt is, and their companies would help them adopt. Our company helps us adopt it, but I understand the pressures that can exist.
Yeah,
but
I want to go back to something that was said earlier, and like your opinion on this, Sam. So personally, I've never demoed, looked at, touched your SIEM.
Boo.
That's okay. That's okay.
I do.
That's my fault.
I do use Insight VM though, so I do have some exposure.
Up there.
But what was mentioned earlier was something that really struck a chord, and it was if you use a Splunk or even one of the newer cloud native SIEMs, perhaps Azure Sentinel, you do need some level of programming-ish knowledge and experience, or you have to learn a whole new freaking language. I'm not gonna lie. With Azure Sentinel, you got to learn KQL. With Splunk, you got to learn their query language. So and then even with an Elk stack, right, you got to learn their Elk query language. So there's a whole learning curve to it. You basically need a 2 or 3 SOC analysts just writing and tweaking rules all the time. And so you mentioned that you guys take a different approach. So I'd like for you to expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of our key understandings early in when we embarked on this is that rule maintenance and rule development were a huge constraint, especially on smaller security teams as they rolled out a SIEM. We talked to teams where they would say, yeah, I got my first alert working 3 months in. And we're like, well, like that just sort of blew our mind. It's like, wait, you're spending $1 million or some large amount of money on this thing. And it took you 3 months to get your first operationalized alert. Like that just felt wrong to us. Right. And it should,
it should.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not being mean, but I mean, a company that's willing to adapt and learn, you should have taken offense to it. So I'm actually it's kind of cool that you could own up to that.
Yeah.
And so I think what we realized is that the taking a pure rule-based approach right out of the box, could be really challenging for our customers. And so we took a behavior-based approach where, what we try to do is, I'll use an example that I think yields a lot of really good results for our customers. We look at one example is we look at impersonation attempts, right? So a user impersonates another user. Usually, almost always on a Windows environment, these are admins. And so what we do when we first arrive in an environment is we baseline that. We look at who's impersonating who, and we see, what the normal usage of your admin accounts are. And then after a certain amount of time, we basically start telling you every time we see someone using an admin account we've never seen before. And the noise is really low because we've already seen the normal admin usage that you see in your environment. But, the value of those alerts, like, most security analysts care when some new user, impersonates a domain admin for the first time. Like that's interesting, even if it's okay, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
Yes.
And that's interesting. Because I think as Matt and Aaron will note, we've had several other, not another demo companies on here, including Abnormal and SentinelOne, who are taking that same approach. And customers who use their products are getting incredible value out of that. Is taking the behavior-based over, just strictly analytic rules. So that's interesting to hear.
Yeah, and I think another interesting, idea there is like, the other thing we realized from Metasploit is the first thing our pen test team does when they arrive at a customer site is they scan the network. And I think a traditional SIM approach would have been like, all right, well, send us your firewall data, maybe your switch data. We're talking terabytes or gigabytes worth of data, and we'll analyze this at scale and tell you whether or not someone's scanning your network. We sort of took the opposite approach, which was, hey, why don't we install a little honeypot, that's basically headless on your environment, and it'll send us one event when someone scans your network. Now you don't need the terabytes of data. You don't need that massive, Hadoop job or whatever.
You're scanning the whole subnet anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. And so, if anyone scans the network, you're gonna see it in IDR. And by the way, it's really simple to get out working out of the box. You just deploy our little virtual machine and off you go. Right. And so that's the sort of mindset we bring. And I think the last thing is, as I mentioned, all those analysts, they're in the trenches every day looking at alerts. And believe me, when there's a noisy alert in our environment, we're the first ones to hear about it, because our internal team is like, what the hell was that, right?
Yeah.
And you just wasted 30 minutes of my time, 2 hours of my time, fix this, right? And so we have to spend a lot of time thinking, we eat our own dog food, I think is the way to think about it. And as a result, we feel your pain when you go off and investigate an alert that turns into noise, right? And so, by the way, I would love to say we've solved all the problems in alert noise. Like I don't want to make it sound like that.
That's call you a liar if you did.
Never.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So some of our behavior-based detections, like in a certain environment, they still fire too much, and we've obviously given customers the ability to tune them, or in some cases, quite honestly, they just have to turn them off. They just don't work in that environment for a variety of reasons.
That's a great word of advice to the listeners out there who are exploring behavior analytics, because a lot of people talk about it. The nature of behavior analytics, so acronyms that may be used, UBA, user behavior analytics, UEBA if you're Gartner, user and entity behavior analytics, that just means users and assets. It's very powerful, and hardcore math helps. That's why we use it, but hardcore math alone doesn't solve this problem. You need other boundaries around it. But the point I'm making is behavior analytics inherently is not a match. It's inherently low fidelity because it's behavior. This looks like, this could be. So get into behavior analytics because it will push your program forward, but hold the vendor accountable to how do you present low fidelity information that's not a match, like this indicator of compromise has been matched. It's inherently low fidelity. How do you do that without inundating us with
you have to apply the tech, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just another buzzword. If I hear, UEBA, AI, next gen, I'm gonna put my fist through my monitor here. So you have to understand and apply that technology correctly, not just so you have it. So
well, you have to have a point of view. We have to have a point of view. We were selling user behavior analytics for 18 months before Gartner had an acronym. That was hard, but I'm grateful because we had to develop a story of how do users get compromised. Sam just described it. How do compromised credentials happen? How do you move laterally? What does that look like? Why don't traditional SIEMs see it? Our team had to develop that understanding and that story, and we still use it today. So we don't lazily just say UBA. We say, here's why you need to know if users are compromised. Happens all the time. You look at the great work that Verizon does. Statistically, it happens in breaches all the time. You got to be able to see it. But to your point, Anthony, you can't just drop in tech and away you go.
All right, I promised you some softball questions, so here's some good softball questions. No, because I'll do one, and then Anthony can do one. One of the things I think we're going to see in the industry in 2021 is a little bit of fallout, right, from the COVID business part, because you're still seeing the stock market, X, Y, and Z, and this company's doing great and everything else. But you're going to start to see small and medium businesses feel the squeeze, right? Your big players are going to survive this. They always do, the good and bad. You're going to start seeing, you know, medium-sized enterprises starting to restrict their budgets a little bit. How can your product help, since you do have several components, right? A niche player is going to have to sell their niche. You guys have several key components that can work together, you know, to combat best of breeds. What can you do to help when it comes to making those tough choices about budgets?
Yeah.
Sam, hold me to 60 seconds on this. And if it's appropriate, I wonder if you think it's appropriate to talk about acquisition at a time like this and how we think about it. But I just have an allergic reaction to best of breed, and it's because of the fight that my teams have to fight, which is, think about Rapid7 and a quick education. We are a true platform, technology platform, SaaS platform with 5, 6 different purpose-built applications on top. They solve very specific problems, but they live in different acronyms. They live in different markets. They live in different projects. And so the prevailing theory is I could go with a platform, but I'm not going to get best of breed. I could go with a platform, but I'm going to give up capability. We believe we're challenging that successfully. In my opinion, I can think of one other company in cybersecurity that does more than one thing well. Palo Alto. Good for them. They're great. We're free advertising.
We can have a side argument about that.
We can have a separate conversation about that.
I guess what, hey, numbers-wise, the numbers would tell you they have a lot of customers in multiple areas, so they must be doing it at least
something
somewhat
right.
well. Yeah,
Fair
yeah.
enough.
So world's most widely deployed vulnerability management solution. Awesome. 2,000 plus customers now in SIEM. A lot of people don't even know that. Gartner Magic Quadrant leader, if you guys care about that.
Don't.
We just SOAR, right? And so, but the fight we fight with people is like, how do you improve your security, not stay neutral or even take a step back to consolidate? Which, yeah, on some level de-risks your exposure to companies going underwater because they're not as well established as Rapid7.
And that's a real thing. It really is. Yeah,
it's sometimes it's a religious debate and there's no point in having that conversation, but sometimes it can be a really healthy conversation about what do I give up? And I think people need to think about that.
Sam, what are your thoughts? Because I've often wondered, my leaders have not asked this question. So go on the record. My leaders have not asked us to be less secure. But working with small and medium businesses and trying to educate them, it is that number, right? So to Anthony's point, if I spend $1 million, a board wants to hear that I am X percentage safe, right? Because I deal with my job is to deal business side security every day. So I have very smart board members. They want to know, I just allocated $1 million to you. How safer am I? And you and I, all of us know that that's a slippery slope. But when it comes to that, that's what they want to know. So it's something to where, you throw numbers out like 90%, right? If
you need some sort of metric to prove and to go back up to the board as far as,
so I'm going to spend $1 million. I'm going to get to 90% secure, right? Now you have a situation where you have different budget constraints and everything else, or the business needs to move faster, right? Because there's one thing about COVID, we accelerated, at least in our healthcare system. Our CFO, way smarter than me. I think some of the stuff that they talked about is we basically took 3 years worth of work, 3 to 4 years worth of work, and we smushed it and we did it in 6 months, which is unheard of for a medium-sized healthcare system.
Yeah.
So now between the business wanting to move faster and budget constraints, is it the number 80%, right? And it sounds weird because an average person's going, whoa, you're just making yourself more insecure. It's not that, yes, but it's that risk tolerance. So how do you work with someone to let them know that, hey, you're going to do a platform, it's going to seem like you're getting less, but guess what? If you do X, Y, and Z right, you're still at 90%.
Yeah, I think this is this is sort of the magic metric, I think. How secure am I? Has anyone, this is in some ways is the unanswerable question, right? I think we all
very philosophical.
You can't answer it.
And it's kind of one of those things where like, I feel like if I try to answer it, half the room is going to be like, well, that was a bullshit answer, right? So, I think the tricky part to me, I think the real challenge for security teams these days is their flexibility, right? Like, 9 months ago, we all didn't have massive remote workforces that we had to deal with, but now here we are, right? And I think if there's any huge winners here, it's the SaaS, SaaS vendors who all of a sudden got a huge influx of customers.
Zoom. How'd you like to have bought Zoom stock back in February?
Slack, DocuSign. DocuSign is one of those.
DocuSign, another one. Yep.
And I think what we've seen is that the huge benefit we offer is the SaaS environment. And more importantly, the SaaS plus the agent. Actually, we've won a lot of customers over because all of a sudden, their workers are not on the network anymore. So you know what? Those firewall logs, not so valuable.
Yeah. So to pause on that for a sec, there's a huge, huge problem with agent fatigue. If I go to my IT department, I say I'm going to deploy another agent, they're going to shoot me. So
tell them ours is heavyweight, super heavyweight.
That was awesome, Alex.
Do your agents work together? So I have deployed Insight VM Agent. Can I use that?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. And that is one of the huge value propositions for our platform. And back to what Aaron was saying is why is 1 + 1, actually 3? Something like the agent, I can now run my vulnerability management program and my detection response program on the same agent. And by the way, I can cover remote workers because I don't have to punch a hole in my firewall so my agents can report home. They just talk to my SaaS platform, right? Whether they're on the network or off the network. And I think as the workforce becomes more and more flexible, and to your point, we have more and more agents in the
ether.
In the ether. Yeah. It's funny. I was actually looking, something was blowing up my machine yesterday, and I was looking at trying to figure out which of the many agents it was. And I noticed that I had an in-case agent on my laptop, and I was like, "What is I didn't think we used in-case here at Rapid7." And I talked to my security team. He's like, "Oh, you must have an old Windows image, and in-case was just part of that. It's just been sitting there for, I don't know. I've had my laptop for 2.5 years. It's just been sitting there doing nothing, right? For 2.5. Well, probably not nothing, right? It's probably taking out my cycles. So, it's, Anthony, to your point, like I think." We knew right away when we got into the world of agents, we were going to have to provide a ton of value. So it'll collect logs, it'll collect, your process start information for sort of, detecting what's running on an endpoint, and, it'll do your vulnerability management as well.
It's key because one of the frustrations I had with CASB, and it was a vendor that is
vendor or acronym, Aaron.
Oh, hey, look at that. I gotta drop a quarter in the jar. A cloud access security broker is the ones where like it's just for visibility and you can't help take action on it.
Yep.
So if I'm understanding you right, one of advantages of your platform would then be being able to take action on that alert, right? Because CloudLock, I'm gonna call it out, right? As another software that we may have beta tested. Like, just because I see it happen and alerting after the fact, that does me no good. So to Anthony's point, it needs to connect to X, Y, and Z. So when that SOC person sees something, they can do something. But to Alex's point, what happened? How do we take that one step further with a SOC that has one person? We're fortunate enough. We have super smart finance people that, we have a decent sized SOC. We are very lucky. I'm not going to lie. So you have one person in a SOC, you're going to need that AI and the automation to help with that.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can earn our way back next year for a SOAR discussion where because that's the answer to this question for us.
Acronym alert.
Secure. security orchestration and automation response. Automation, people say automation. The beautiful thing about Rapid7 being a platform company is we also have an award-winning automation technology, which means you don't, I hope you use Inside IDR. I hope you use RSIM. If you don't, that doesn't matter. You can still take action in the way that you want. And if you haven't read Checklist Manifesto, I would read it. It's by Atul Gawande. It's a great book. It has nothing to do with security operations, but if you think about security ops as you read it, you'd be like, oh man, this is great. Because sometimes you can automate all the way through. There's no decision needed. So it's a checklist where there's no decision. It's just like, I did it, I did it, I did it, I did it, I did it. Sometimes you need to automate to a human decision. So, you know, suspicious phishing email submitted by a user. We're going to automate grabbing some information from the email, but then we're going to look at it, maybe have a conversation, make a decision. So you can automate to the point of a decision. There's a lot here, and that's an exciting topic. But yeah, to your point, I would agree. If you're only getting better at getting alerts and you're not able to take action, you're just getting better at getting bad news.
So to round this whole conversation up, and just to go back to the first question I asked, which was, how are you providing value, or at least, you know, showing me that a SIEM is valuable? Because at the end of the day, an actionable alert in a SIEM means you got through all of my other controls. Because to me, a SIEM is the bottom
last
big
line
pot that's collecting all that data. Yep. You got through my EDR, my if you phished me, you got through, you know, my email security and all those things. And so I'm seeing behavior or alerts, or you got in my building and you've got something plugged into a switch, so my physical security failed. And so now I'm getting an alert in a SIEM that I have to investigate. So I believe the way that you guys are going about this then is you're taking a different approach to analytics and rules, and you're not just doing it a 0 equals 1, therefore, you know, that's not an alert. 1 equals 1, therefore that's an alert. Right. And you're actually taking a look at behavior and a little more of a deeper dive into actually what I'm sending you than just, you know, matching rules.
I'm getting choked up here because my Padawan is no longer a Padawan. I think he's just I think he has just earned his Jedi. I think he's just earned his Jedi status.
Yeah, and I think, Anthony, I think to your last point, to just add a little bit more to that, I think the other thing we believe a SIEM is going to have to help add value with is response, right? So I think too much, you know, as a you know, a product category, we sort of present something to you and say, good luck, off you go. Mm-hmm. And I think we would like to help you automate the response for some, or maybe, you know, at least a portion of your alerts. Mm-hmm. So you can say, you know what, when this type of alert comes in, I need to go gather this information, and I need to, you know, maybe I need to send a Slack message to this person to do this thing. Yeah. Maybe I need to isolate that machine to the network until, you know, from the network until I'm ready to because it's so severe. And, you know, those things that analysts do over and over again, those are things we want to automate out. And that's why we do have an automation module that we bundle with our SIEM. And, you know, I'm not going to use the acronym again, but, and, you know, and I think that's an opportunity for the SIEM to actually, you know, add a lot more value, is to help with that tail end.
Absolutely.
Isn't that just it then? I think in summary, like, I think that's just it with Rapid7, and a way to think about us is, how are we more valuable? It's just two things. It should make your defenses stronger, defined as what Anthony said. If it gets past my other controls, you'll see it. But the vendor should take on the burden. So it shouldn't be.
But that means they got to buy your SOAR platform too, which means the value has to then be even more because I'm spending more money.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony, you're right. It is more money. I mean, I think like all, you know, with like all SIEMs, we do have modules associated with it because, you know, if you have another automation platform, we want you to be able to use that with us rather than, you know, have to use ours. Just, you know, same with our network sensor. We don't want to prescribe you have to use ours. if you've got something in place, then that's great. Send us those alerts.
I think there's actually, I do want to be accurate here. With a SIEM, in order to do more and get better security than your other controls, that's a lot of human work. The burden that I was defining, Sam's team has done and built in. And there's free trial on our website, go nuts. My commitment is, and I'm going to put it out there a little bit. You give us 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours. I'm going to wager it's more likely than not you'll see more visibility with our technology than you have with your current SIEM if you have one. We get that feedback all the time. So give it a whirl. But so even before you get to the response piece, there's a tremendous amount of burden that we were talking about earlier in the show. Build. You can still build if you want on top of what Sam's team's been building for 7 years and continues to build in 2-week sprints, of course. But our philosophy is we carry that burden because someone has to, and that's different. We include some automation. You can pay more to get full-blown automation, but we do include some.
So we're coming up on time, but I have one last question because I have friends who would kill me if I didn't ask this. There are a lot of companies who use SIEM as a compliance need or to fill a compliance need. Talk about reporting.
Never heard of that before. You are lying.
Talk about reporting, if you will, just briefly. Do you have canned, PCI, HIPAA, pre-canned reports that I can click a button and give to an auditor and, they're happy with it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think we would definitely approach SIEM from the security perspective, but, we'd be foolish not to recognize that compliance is a huge part of the budget that gets spent on SIEM. And so, we'll take your logs, we'll store them, we'll let you report on them. We've got pre-built cards for a bunch of compliance standards, and you can generate reports, and you can keep that data for as long as your compliance requires, either in hot or cold storage.
But if all people care about is compliance, I'll be forthright. We're not the best solution. You're gonna pay us too much. There's way cheaper things that
Honesty,
you can purchase.
It's a wonderful thing.
There's some very cost effective, I wouldn't necessarily call them a SIEM, but log aggregation tools that can report. So just be aware of that.
Yeah. Well, I think honesty is a perfect place to end this conversation. Looking at the clock, I can listen to smart people talk all day, but we should probably end this. So
what you guys are saying is we might have to do a hashtag Real Talk episode on SOAR.
Would love to do it.
It's good. We do need to make that like a separate episode because there is a lot of we picked on you guys a little bit. But we actually do have valuable real life information that we do need to get out to vendors to help you guys get your products better. So, But Anthony, that was a better softball question than me because Sam just smashed that one.
All right. Well, great stuff, guys. Again, Alex, Sam, I really appreciate you joining us today. Everyone that's watching this, please do the like, subscribe, share, all that great YouTube stuff. Our subscriber number keeps going up every time I hit refresh. So please hit that little bell, right? Or that's notification. I don't know. I'm not good.
That's I'm too old
for this stuff. But anyways, we'll have Rapid7's contact information certainly in the description field as well. As I'm sure anyone that's been involved in our chapter knows, Rapid7 has been a huge supporter of ours. Literally since day one. So we really appreciate you guys continuing to support what we're doing here with our CSA chapter as well. So with that,
where is our rep anyways? He was here and then he left. I wanted to give him props.
I think he felt like he was crowding it. I'll have to give him
he's fine.
I'll have to give him grief.
So.
In all seriousness, you guys have been awesome sponsors.
Great.
So
absolutely.
All right. What do you think, Sam?
I'm gonna end it, Aaron. I gotta end it officially. So thanks everyone. We'll see you for episode 13.
Thanks for having us.